Man, it is past midnight when I'm recording this, and it's late. Sorry about that. Ran into some technical difficulties, and I had to go to work. And I came back, and it was already pretty late when I got back from work, and I did it as soon as I got home. Basically, well, I ate, but that's some mundane stuff that happens in between. Anyway, for this episode, we finally get into the conversation me and Ian have been alluding to, which is about religion. Before that, we started off with some of our philosophical ideas, talking about how, and to date this episode, how fucking awesome that photo is of the black hole, by the way. That's, it's still kind of crazy to me that we're in that timeline, but I don't know how big people are taking it yet. Anyway, I haven't written anything down. We get into it. It's very obvious in this episode that we did take a break and we had a conversation about what to do and getting into topics, which is why we're able to get into philosophical beliefs or ideas or things we follow, and into the religion topic. So without further ado, let's just go. All right. We have food in us.
Fully topped up.
Yeah, we can get back to the real issues.
Let's dig in.
Why do people like Faygo? What's up with that?
What's Faygo?
Guys,
It's a soda.
Oh.
when you jabronis go
But
out-
it sounds like a bad wine cooler, right? Like,
Faygo,
Yeah,
or it sounds like a drug too, like
was that Iron Sheik?
that some dude in Florida did.
Faygo definitely does sound like a knockoff, club drug.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we're gonna go in this bathroom and do some Faygo. Hey, me and the girls are gonna bump some Faygo real quick.
Be cool.
You
Faygo.
what? This
Yeah.
party's taking off.
This party's taking off.
But it is forbidden. So is our love.
Remember, nothing is forbidden.
Except, of course, the forbidden move.
So where are we coming in?
So it's been a bit. We got some food in us.
Yeah.
So let's get a little bit more centered on topic, because we were talking about a lot of general stuff.
Yeah.
Kind of our thoughts on it. But something, of course, that people who have been listening know us as right now is we are very existentialists.
Yeah.
And I think we should start with that. First of all, what we mean by that, are we existentialists or are we nihilists? Because the new cool hip thing, and I say that very, very insulting.
All these kids.
But people are using the term nihilism when I think they actually mean existentialism.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
where do you all find yourself on? Well, Nick, are you even what philosophies do you usually?
Oh, no, for me it's...
If you got any word for it.
It's tough to... I don't know.
Because I don't want to forcibly put a label on you.
No, it's cool. I forget you. No.
I forgive you.
Yeah. I know it took me a while
It's,
to settle on the term existentialist.
It's weird
For a long
because... Yeah, no, for me it's weird because I don't necessarily agree or disagree with certain... There's some things I agree or disagree with certain ideas or philosophies.
Okay.
Or some things I'm kind of sounds kind of strange to me.
Yeah.
Like, the whole thing about we are not value, if we don't have value in the universe, therefore the universe doesn't have value.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Where that was actually Carl Sagan's point, was to challenge that.
Yeah.
Was that it came from the mentality of I'm special. It's an all or nothing in value. I'm of value, or no one's of value.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he explained that because we are made of space dust, we are our components and our chemicals are the same of the universe. Mm-hmm. So we're not significant because we have we're more than the universe, but rather because we're the same.
Right.
Which was his whole philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess for that kind of stuff, I kind of have a strong I kind of lean more towards that.
Okay.
Of like I found it strange how we would say we have no value yet decide what value the greater thing has.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is strange.
That's still like, because that's hypocritical, right? If
it's an ego.
if you view yourself as having no value, then to judge value on something else,
Who are
who implies that you have value,
Right.
and
Yeah.
you have enough value.
You have a say.
To that to your end, yours is kind of the end all be all opinion of what has value or not.
And I always ask, what's the grand scheme? Because it's like, oh, it doesn't matter the grand scheme. Well, what is the grand scheme? You talk about it a lot, but what is it actually?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And why do you say that it now detracts your own value?
Mm-hmm.
I guess it would kind of go into what you said, Chris, a lot about like the biggest fear tends to be change.
Yeah.
Or the possibility that you have to take action.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something that you can't control.
Yeah.
Which is definitely a tough thing to do. Because like you said, there's the brain part where it's kind of like it doesn't want that.
Yeah.
It likes familiar.
Yeah. It's also going along the lines of, I think one of the hardest thing for any human being to do is to take responsibility.
Yeah.
For anything at all.
Yeah.
Like just adding one factor.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess for that kind of philosophy, I always loved Carl Sagan's. Like I always
Pale Blue Dot.
Pale Blue Dot's still my favorite.
That's a
speech.
philosophy, but like that's not even like.
Yeah.
Because it came out as a science journal type. No, that to me is like. That is a dude writing his philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
I think Carl Sagan also has a really, as scientific as he is, he has a very left brain approach to a lot of things.
Yeah.
I think,
Mm-hmm.
and like, he was one of the main consultants for the. If I need to talk up,
Yeah, a little bit.
he was one of the main consultants for the. Oh gosh, I'm blanking on the name of it, but the space probe that we sent with communication for what Earth is with the.
Oh, with the gold disc.
Yeah.
The gold vinyl.
Oh yeah.
Like, Sagan was one of the main consultants determining like what is our best foot forward as humanity.
Uh-huh.
You know.
What was the song they chose?
I think they chose Mozart.
Yeah, there's nothing.
Which okay.
And they chose math because it's
a universal language.
Well, the idea of that is it's universal.
Probably,
language.
maybe.
Yeah.
Who
That's
knows?
the closest we can get.
Yeah.
It's.
Well, that's why it's a vinyl too, because you just have to play vibrations for the sound.
Mm-hmm.
It had to be weirdly basic while also being like
complex.
Yeah.
Because I mean, then they talk about like how do you communicate? Like there's a map to Earth on it.
Yeah.
How do you communicate distance or location without things in relationship that you are sending?
Yeah.
To? Like a map doesn't matter if you don't have
unless
things...
you have a reference point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In the same way that like left and right don't mean anything.
Uh-huh.
If you had to explain to someone over the radio who had no idea what is left and what is right, you cannot use language to express that.
Yeah.
No.
You know.
Quick aside, one of the cool it just made me think of it, like in terms of math is universal language. In the game Bloodborne, there's a hand sign you can do, or a gesture, where it's basically, if you can imagine, it's for those who haven't seen it. I think it's just called contact. If you look at the gesture name, it's a person standing completely straight and having the right arm straight up, pointing straight up, and their left arm perpendicular to the other one. And they hold that for a while, and if you let it play out, they after a bit they slowly start moving their hands to the right, so that now the left hand is up straight and the right hand is perpendicular to the left. And what that's supposed to do is that's supposed to show that you understand mathematics, because that's a right angle and you're transferring it other to show that that if you make a 180 degree, it's still a right angle.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So you can do that with certain creatures in that game who are aliens.
Okay.
So, and that's why it's called contact,
Okay.
because you're expressing the universal language of math. I just think it's like one of the coolest things like in that game.
That is very cool.
Yeah. That a lot of people can miss unless they wait for like 2 minutes,
Right.
doing nothing. Which in that game you're constantly moving. So.
Yeah.
But it's How do you do that? How do you reference all that? And Ian, so where do you settle on your views on that?
I would say that I guess a philosophical school, I'm more absurdist.
Absurdist, okay.
Than anything. I know that it's very hip to like Slavoj Žižek right now. And
I'm sorry, what?
We should just punch you, right?
I haven't heard that in years.
Fucking nerd.
Do people not talk about it? That guy?
No, there's a good
You should
reason.
probably explain it just in case.
Oh, so there's a guy
Douche.
named Slavoj Žižek
Okay.
who was a very popular philosopher for quite a few years, and he's still publishing work right now.
Okay.
A lot of his opinions I do not agree with.
Yeah.
He's but I mean, some of the things he said I think are intelligent. He's God, that sounds fucking.
He says smart things that I like. He says things I like in a way that's cool.
Everything he says is in a way that's he's a philosopher who's obsessed with perception.
Words.
Okay.
He's very aware of his perception, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I guess I come to my view of things as that nothing has a meaning as it is.
Yeah.
Everything is a created meaning.
Mm-hmm.
And just because things don't have inherent meaning doesn't mean like that meaning is impossible or that it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Like,
meaning is anything you give it, like...
if you give something value,
yeah,
then it exists.
Yeah.
In that way.
It's like, it's rituals. Like, there's actually a great... In case anyone wants, like, a good way to get into this that's kind of universal or easy to grasp concept, I'll put a link in the description for wherever the part this comes out. It's an SCP about the god deer. I don't remember what it's called, but it's like a thing. And part of that SCP is that all these scientists have to perform rituals. And he's explaining these rituals don't actually mean anything. They're just things. But the fact that we've believe that they'll fix the deer or keep the deer at bay makes the deer not do anything.
That's really fantastic.
And it's like, wow, whoever wrote this, like...
gets it.
Yeah. In that rituals don't... The actual doing of moving your body in certain ways doesn't actually mean anything until you give it meaning. And then once you keep giving it meaning, it becomes even more powerful to your own, like, psyche or whatever belief system you got.
I mean, it's essentially the way that all money works.
Yeah, it's just paper. But we all trust and believe that this is representative of a certain value.
I mean, I think even before that, like, I mean, gold is precious because we say it's precious.
Yeah.
Like, there's not anything practical about gold.
And we gave the definition of precious being something's less than other things. So,
like, you can't eat it.
Yeah.
You can't.
Which means we have to give it a reference point.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, if it does not...
Well, you can eat anything if you try hard enough.
You know, there was that scientist who did all the hard work.
Yeah.
You ever think about the guy who discovered maple syrup was edible?
What a freak.
Yeah, what a
Sucking on trees.
Tree sucker.
Tree blood.
You fucking arboreal vampire.
Yeah. It's now like one of the most delicious things ever.
Oh, it's delightful. It's delightful.
This tree blood.
But no, I mean that's kind of where I come in at it.
Okay.
That I don't think. So like the concept of the meaning of life is a silly thing to me.
Okay.
I don't, or like the meaning of like life, the universe, and everything.
Yeah.
Like it's just.
It could be anything. It might as well be 42 for what? Like,
Yeah, actually, genuinely, yes.
No, yeah.
Is just a valid answer. Like,
My favorite punchline.
people have this idea that there's some. I think especially when you're younger,
Yeah.
you have this idea that like, oh, finding what the meaning of life and existence is the deep thought. It is the thing. It's like, well, the real answer is, there's something here because otherwise there would be nothing.
Yeah.
It
is what it is, and it's not because it's not. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Like there is no mystery to it, and I think that's a letdown for people. Like, also when you think about things philosophically, like if you read, oh God, I'm sorry, Eugene Thacker, who's like a nihilist philosopher,
Okay.
who I do really like. He wrote this whole book about what is nothing.
Yeah.
And the existential fear we have of the idea of nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even space is something.
Yeah.
It is a place. It is.
The moment you give a word to it, it's something.
It is something. It exists, and it occupies an area. And like, when you think about it in base logistics, like that weird language that philosophers talk in, there is an infinite number of ways for a thing to be a thing. There is only one way that there is nothing.
Uh-huh.
And so, if you want to break it down to odds, there's infinity reasons why this
is something.
And it's almost infinitesimally small that there is nothing.
Okay. That's very interesting.
So, like, honestly...
The most nothing thing to say whenever you're absorbing something. Interesting.
Interesting. Anyway.
Riveting.
Yes, that's...
I used to have an English professor who was like, hey, can we not say, there's an interesting bit in this book. Like, if you're going to use a word, use a word. Like...
There's a moment that's almost justifies.
There was a passage that
there is something that I think is worth looking into because the rest of the book does not deserve to be looked into.
There's a passage that gave me a form of ejaculation. I think it will let you see.
I'm suddenly roused from my sleep. Let's go. You. No.
So yeah, like I said earlier, I think I've settled that I'm mostly existentialist. The reason I'll never say nihilist is because nihilism begins with the concept that we're just animals who might as well resort to that thing, and what I think that leads into is ruining. It becomes a very selfish idea because if you're not worthy of anything, no one else is, like we've said earlier, and that's placing value. That's still placing value on yourself above others. And that leads to you treating other human beings awfully.
They're not as
and
woke
I think
as
it's
you.
I think it's very, very dangerous road. And in fact, like Nietzsche, warned about it, because people will confusingly say he was for nihilism when actually a lot of it was his warnings against it.
Yes.
And the reason I say existentialist is because I still think there is no inherent meaning to anything. That yes, we are just these random chemicals that are all processing stuff, and humans are just organs that are keep telling ourselves to stay alive. But I still find beauty in that. I think it is a very beautiful thing that in all these odds, we're here. And that's awesome. And it's a beautiful process, and we should probably just use whatever we got to make the time worth it. I think the burden, the quote unquote burden, which in my opinion I view it more as a privilege that you're here, is to take advantage of that and to use your time wisely for whatever endeavor. So you better enjoy it. Because whatever you got is what you got.
Yeah, you just sound a Blade Runner.
Yeah, basically.
I think to kind of...
It's more of like a basic understanding of existentialism, my view thing, but I do find things beautiful, still, even if again, there's no inherent meaning. Well, I'm giving meaning to it. There's that. There's for out of anything. There's a great joke in A Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy thing where he's like, are you really death? I'm gonna ask you all these questions. And one of the questions is, what's the meaning of life? There is no meaning of life. If there was a meaning of life, then none of us would keep living. Because then the idea is that we have to fulfill that one thing.
And then we'd be done.
Yeah. Which to me, it's much more beautiful that there is nothing.
Yeah.
You're essentially given a blank canvas.
To do whatever you want.
To do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And it's one, the most intimidating thing in the world, as any artist will tell you.
Yes.
But two, it's also the greatest and most beautiful privilege you can ever gain.
Yeah.
Some people don't get to have a blank canvas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Straight up. Like,
some people don't get to have the, like you said, the privilege to question and like fear it.
Yeah.
So,
That's the thing I always get to. Like, the very fact that I think I fall into the existential thing is in itself a privilege.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that means things are probably going well if I get to, in all retrospect, if I get to have the time to think this way.
Yeah.
To do navel gazing, as it was. And that's where I kind of want to segue into kind of my existential depression, which I didn't get really into.
Yes.
In that, one, it is a double-edged sword. One, it's the thing that's keeping me here because I think it's beautiful and, like, a fantastic, like, reason to keep going.
Mm.
But two, it's very easy to get lost in it. And it's very easy to invalidate yourself. Because if you're saying nothing is inherent, then you'll believe that you're nothing. Even though, again, we've just established that's a hypocrisy because who are you to give me, to bestow value?
Yeah.
Like on, or what's worthy and what's worth less.
Yes.
As opposed to, no, it's all worthy, it's just, it's different worth to everybody else. And it's easy to get lost into it. I guess like a real easy example, it's played off as a joke in the movie, but we've talked about it, and sorry to bother you. It's the very first thing our main protagonist says, Cassius Green, is he's sitting there going deep into those existential thoughts. And that was like the most real thing in the world for me.
Oh, what if the sun's already out?
Yeah.
We wouldn't know for 8 minutes.
Yeah. And I'm sitting there in the theater going, boy, that's real. That, like, it's being played off as a joke. I'm like, no, I've been in those spots.
And I was like, that's very funny.
Yeah. Like, huh. And I grew a little uncomfortable, and I was like, this movie's going to be something good.
Oh.
And it was, yeah.
It was. But as I get into it, man, it's easy to get lost in that. And again, like I said, it's a sort of privilege to be able to think like that. But on the other hand, then you go into, well, isn't that incredibly selfish of you that you're using this time to be thinking about that kind of stuff? And there's no blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Go down the rabbit hole. We've all been down there. Yeah, that's kind of where I fall on that.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Is I do think there's beauty in the universe. It's just we have to give it beauty.
No, I see that. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean...
I it's very hard for me to say there's absolutes. Like...
Yeah, I mean... Like,
you can't even say death, because there's plenty of life that's outlived for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, you could talk about heat, death, the universe, but it's like...
I mean, that's also just our understanding of this universe.
Yeah, because, again, there's, like, the known universe, and then it's, like, everything beyond it.
And then also, like, the weird thing of parts of our universe are accelerating, not decelerating.
Yeah.
No. Expansion.
And nobody knows why.
Nobody knows fucking Nobody fucking knows. Dark matter, what the fuck's up with that? It's real. We've just proven it in the last couple of years.
It's all that black hole.
Mm-hmm.
That was awesome.
Look down the barrel of a goddamn black hole.
That's like the coolest thing.
Yeah.
Like
if people just say it's just a blurry photograph, fuck you. Like that's a...
Oh man.
That's a miracle. That's a fucking miracle that we got to look at that thing.
I'll be that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean...
Because it was a thing previously conceived as we'll never be able to see a black hole.
Yeah.
And then we found out, well, light bends around it is so strong. So, like,
That's
there's a chance.
Yeah. If I fold these two papers, sorry.
Yeah.
when I was a kid.
And I punch a hole.
I remember so many films. I remember watching a movie that did an animation of the premise of the film was it was like it was a science documentary that was attempting to demonstrate the Einstein relativity theory of relativity.
Yeah.
By having the rocket ship. Do we all know that? Just briefly, his example, Einstein's example, was you have two twin brothers. One lives their life normally, and one takes off in a rocket that is going at or near the speed of light for 20 years.
Yeah.
When he comes back, his brother will have either died or be on his deathbed, and he will have aged a few days. So they had this animation demonstrating how the rocket would go that fast by orbiting a black hole. And this animation was like, this is basically what it would look like, and it's just a sphere of inconceivable blackness, surrounded by vibrant lights and gases igniting from friction. And this little tiny, and I guess I'd never gotten an idea of the scale of a black hole, and this rocket ship that's this white speck moving along the side of the darkness. And I remember having one of those existential moments of, Jesus Christ. A black hole could swallow everything I've ever known, and it would make it would mean nothing.
Yeah. It was just in its way.
Yeah. That is horrifying. Also, just like picturing in your mind imagine being in a car, in a ship, it doesn't matter, in a vessel, looking out the window, and the entire left side, top to bottom, in every part of your periphery is a blackness you cannot conceive of.
Yeah, like you look at it and your brain won't be able to make sense of it.
Yeah, that's how little sensory input you're receiving.
Yeah.
Oh God.
That actually reminds me of the story I was alluding to before we started this.
Yes.
Where when I was mentoring kids, I had one student who, I don't give a shit. I play favorites all the time. He was like one of my favorite kids to work with. And one day my coworker, who was in charge of that group that he was a part of, she goes to me, he's like, "Hey, you should probably talk to him." And I go, "Why?" And she goes, he's starting to think like you do. And I go, "With what?" And then I ask him, he's like, "So what's up?" And he's like, "Today in class, I learned that Earth is not even part of the center, is not even the center of the universe." And I went, "Oh, yeah. And he goes, "He's not even center of the galaxy. We're on, like, this arm that's
the
all the way at
outer
the
edge
end."
of an outer edge.
And I went, yeah, we're center of nothing, man. We just are. And he goes, "It's really bumming me out."
Well,
and I look, and there's a sick part of me that's like, yeah, man, this is where it begins. I was around this age when it started.
Yep.
I could smell it on you.
Yeah. And I go, man, welcome to this. It's it's just going to get worse and worse. But let me tell you something. There's something beautiful to that. There's something almost relieving that you are not the most important thing out there. Yeah. I think that's true. I think like that there's no inherent responsibility. You just have to make responsibility.
Yeah.
But again, that leads to the hardest thing that people, like I said, have to do, is take and make responsibility.
Yeah.
But yeah. So one last topic before we finish up.
Okay.
You want to do the religion?
Yeah, let's
thing.
do it, man.
Sure.
Okay. So Nick, I know it's not. You've said before that wasn't too big of a deal with you.
No.
So is it okay for me and Ian?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Unless do you have anything to say about your experiences with it?
No, I mean mine was just like you know, you get to a point in your life where you're not forced to go to places anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
I just stopped caring. No one stopped me, so...
So you're done.
Yeah.
So I'm done.
Yeah, it was like really it. I mean, there wasn't really any guilt. I mean, I can
None of
understand...
that Catholic guilt.
No,
You
because...
sinner.
Well, no, because I know, like, none of them care if I feel guilty or not.
That's so fucking cool, man.
So brave.
It's so brave.
See, if
Don't you dare turn it around on me.
Yeah, it's about drinking holy water.
Alright.
Fuck, man.
Chugging it.
All right, so Ian,
Yeah, man.
religion,
How about
high
it?
five.
Yeah.
No, it's-
I'll just share
Shit.
it.
I don't know where the fuck to start, man.
I don't even know. Well, let's begin with what our religious upbringing kind of was.
Okay.
As I've multiple times stated before, I grew up in the Catholic.
Yeah.
Specifically the Hispanic style, LA style Catholic, which when I say that, it's kind of very hard to describe.
If you've lived,
Because
in
there's
it,
like
you
Irish
know.
Catholic, there's a bunch of different, and while there's the similarity in the beliefs, there's a bunch of different approaches.
Yeah.
But basically, Catholics, oh my God, you know it's the best reference point. If you listen to last month's episode of the podcast where Ian went to Mass for the first time, I posted that like twice because I was like, man, that was one of my favorite moments like in our podcast history. It's weird. It's weird for people who haven't gone, because it's essentially a ritual. Like,
it's a sacrament.
yeah, it's crazy, and it's ingrained in you, because like, go in there, it's almost like perfect rehearse for most people, because you're doing it over and over again, set time.
I mean, it is very weird when I walked in and it was a one-time thing, so I don't really know, but it did feel like
also the fact that you went to it while there was a cardinal there, and like,
right?
you had no idea what a cardinal was.
Not a clue. Just so
there's a hierarchy, Ian.
Yeah.
There's
and the Pope is
like
you
God,
are no one.
like God has a Fortune 500.
Yeah.
And there's middle management. There's
He's like, no, cardinals are like upper middle.
upper middle. Sure.
They're district managers.
Yeah, you got the full experience, Ian.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
The head priest of each church is like store manager.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then each region's got a district manager.
Okay.
For like
Yeah.
cardinals.
There's franchises. There's
And
departments.
then
Oh yeah. I mean yeah.
And then there's saints. That's like you getting as close to the Pope as you could possibly get,
Okay.
but without becoming Pope.
The Pope is like Elvis. It's like Christian Elvis.
That weirdly helps.
you know he's still alive.
Oh no, he's down in Florida, guys.
Yeah.
And I think there's like head cardinals or like
There's like
countries
a
and,
diocese is
yeah.
a word I've heard.
yeah, it's crazy.
It's weird.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So my upbringing was complex.
Yeah.
It was there was a lot of like traditional Judaism growing up, and
We had that fun moment on the last time you streamed, where like people realized you were Jewish.
Oh really?
Yeah, I don't know if you remember that.
I kind of.
Because someone was like, Ian, are you Jewish? We were all like, yeah, we didn't think we were hiding that.
I didn't know I was sitting on that
Yeah.
one.
Shit, I'm like, oh shit.
Sorry.
Gotta roll.
So I mean that was actually really interesting and I appreciated a lot of it actually.
Mm-hmm.
The weird part was when my family started to convert when I was younger.
Okay.
Parts of my family started to convert to kind of this more broadly, very vaguely defined form of Protestantism, actually.
Yeah.
And a lot of the old stuff that like my grandfather had studied and did was put away and kind of just not if not embraced, like actively pushed down. And this isn't the show for it, so I'll just say I attribute that largely to my family's general political leanings and a feeling that they needed to do this to consolidate with what they felt was the right direction.
Interesting.
As far as those beliefs.
Yeah.
So in that way,
that's a whole nother can of worms.
That's a whole other situation. Yeah. So, oh God, like I mean, because I definitely remember. I don't know if this name will mean anything to anybody, but I remember my grandmother when I was young, listening to Michael Medved, who's like a.
Wasn't he a radio?
He's a radio guy, yeah.
Yeah.
And she would listen to Medved on the while she was in the kitchen
on the talkie.
And I mean like Medved was kind of in that Rush Limbaugh.
Yeah. It was like one of the first.
Yeah. And Medved very specifically was also like an evangelical.
Yeah.
So like he, on top of all the Limbaugh qualities, was also like very into the end of days kind of spiel. And so I don't know, it's very weird. So like I had that element of the outside, definitely, and then kind of it's really weird because usually when Jews if Jews convert and don't just go straight to atheism, they usually go to kind of like just like Christianity light. And I basically went through two belief systems that were like, no, but wasn't that Old Testament really good? Wasn't that shit like? So I feel like that definitely set up. I don't know. Do you want to talk a little bit about like expectations, or how you feel like that set you up for how you viewed things, at least?
Yeah,
like...
I can go into. I'll start with Believe It or Not, and Nick probably remembers. I don't know if I didn't know you around this time.
Yeah.
I was super into it. I was super into it, man. Yeah, Jesus was the coolest.
Jesus is a friend of mine.
His favorite song was Jesus Christ Superstar.
Dude, if only I knew what Jesus Christ Superstar was at that time.
Oh,
like, I was like, yeah, you gotta pray, man. You gotta
really, genuinely.
Yeah. It was weird.
It's just that's such a huge departure,
right?
From
oh my God! Hang on, like
what happened?
I even own like some of the Not of This World.
Really?
Shirts. I swear, man. Yeah, it had like religious quotes, and I was like, yeah, it's fucking cool. That's got like religious shit. These quotes on it. The Bible's fucking rad. I'm like in middle school.
Yeah.
When this is happening, probably a little bit. I even read, like, I was reading the book. I remember in 3rd grade.
Oh man.
And it was I was part of like this basketball team. It was a church basketball. Weirdly enough, it wasn't a Catholic. Wait, was it Catholic, Nick? Do you remember the basketball?
No, it was Christian.
It was Christian, right? Okay. Which was weird. But I think it was just a free way to play basketball.
Sure.
So that's why they signed us up for it.
Free.
You just
or it cost like $20 for the uniform.
Oh.
Even then, the uniforms were borrowed, right? Like you would.
Yeah.
That's still pretty good.
It's gross, but it was like, but it was cheap.
Yeah.
You'd pray before each game and shit. Yeah, you do the thing. You huddle up as a team. You hold each other, and you're like, yeah, man, fucking Jesus is gonna let us smite.
Dunk on these kids.
Well, they would do the, it was worse. They would do the whole arena fucking prayed, or the whole.
Yeah.
And it was like, so we have a good game, like, and then they would try. I guess because that's what it ended up being. Hey, God, let us smite our other team while they're wishing for the same thing. It's weird. It's so weird to talk about it now because like I won't. But because I don't feel like I'm conveying how much like of a grip it had.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had the kung fu grip.
And it was weird. It wasn't like my folks were shoving it down our throats as much as like our extended family is super Catholic.
Okay.
And anything outside that even like goes against those thoughts,
Just not happening.
they would not happening. They would bring it up with you.
Super intense.
Yeah, to the point where I like. Even now, I don't visit many of them, and if I do, I fucking never like touch upon that.
It's not worth it at this point.
It's super not at this point. Everything I've done, I'm not gonna change their minds anymore. I'm gonna conserve my energy for other.
I mean,
things.
I know exactly what you mean. I mean, I know what it's like to. I don't remember how old I was, but it was at some point after my awakening, my shift,
Your awakening.
my
Yeah.
but I remember again because my family had this. A lot of my family had this shift in the late '90s, and it became just very important to be a part of what this movement. I'm trying very carefully to choose my words.
Yeah.
But I do remember like being at a breakfast with my family and them saying things out loud that I was like, are you really gonna say that?
Yeah.
In a room full of people, man. Just that are. I'm trying very hard to say this diplomatically. You know what I mean?
This is how much of a I feel like a grip it had on both of us.
Yeah.
Is that we're still like kind of antsy about talking about this shit.
Yeah. I mean, in the course of one breakfast in particular, I'll just say this.
Sure.
The person I'm related to made the point on a solely political, not any other way, basis. Does the First Amendment apply to Muslims and homosexuals?
Wow.
You know?
Oh, okay.
Because it's one nation under
yeah,
God,
exactly.
motherfucker. Yeah.
I mean, it's this really jarring, like, wow, man. And to then not only say something like that, but then to have like no, here's why my idea is a perfectly reasonable one.
Yeah.
And yeah, man. I'm sorry.
No, that's bad.
It's rough. Yeah, go ahead.
There's a lot to unpack there.
Well, usually it's also some people would believe that you have to swear on a Bible, but but within the Constitution it's like any book of belief.
Yeah.
Which is why you have the first Muslim stand there with the Quran and
yeah. Well, they started doing they've done that with the Torah beforehand.
And then like they've had people who are like not religious just be like, "Do you promise?" Yes.
Yeah.
Hand up. Yes.
Yeah.
You're good.
Mm.
Like, I don't know. Yeah, it's all very strange to me, and I'm not trying to pick on anyone for anything.
Yeah, well, I'm eventually gonna go through my reasoning, but
but that specifically was just like really jarring, and I feel like it really I mean.
They buttered your muffin?
That really did, man.
Really tossed your salad.
It's not a phrase. You cannot help but kind of direct yourself based on where you start.
Yeah.
And I think we've said something to that effect. Is like,
oh, you're a product of your upbringing.
You're a product of your upbringing, and you don't have a say in that.
Yeah.
And so wherever I'm at now, there's a huge portion of it that you don't get to pick.
Yeah.
It just happens. And then you have to react.
Yeah.
And so like I am aware of how much of me is reactionary. Mm-hmm. Oh, so the thing I did want to mention was there was someone really obnoxious on my Twitter feed that I wanted to call out.
Okay, yeah, do it, man. Twitter spats. First time on this.
There's this guy on my Twitter feed, and I feel it probably went through something similar to you and I.
Okay.
And I feel like he is an example of completely misdirecting what comes up.
Yeah.
There was it was something to the effect of I was on the way to work and I really needed to take a dump. So yeah. And so I pulled over and I went into a church while I was wearing my fucking I don't remember which black metal t-shirt. I was just blasting that shit. That'll fucking show all of that. And then he like goes on to say that the fact that people wore like a suit to church proves that they don't give a shit about homelessness. Which is like, and then you took a shit in someone else's bathroom, man. Like,
that's just rude.
Like, look, man.
So that's funny you bring that up. Okay, so let's continue the journey.
Yes,
we're at Chris Jr. here. This is before full Chris, like as Nickelodeon was Nick Jr. And then we'll get to Nick at Night.
Oh, great.
And Degrassi.
Oh no, sorry, Teen Nick.
Then
Nick at Night.
Nick at Night.
Nick Sports, go ahead.
Gas.
There was never Nick Sports. So we're in middle school, right? Very, very much so. Religious.
Yeah.
And I think that was because of that. Like, you would just have to accept it. This is what I knew.
Yeah.
And eventually I would finally start doing the catechism stuff.
Yeah.
And be into that. And I don't want to say there was one thing that shifted my brain to atheism. But I did eventually get there in high school, and this is while I was still doing catechism. Because I had to do, I forget what the second thing is. The first one is First Communion, second is Confirmation, I believe.
That sounds right.
Whatever the second one was the one I got kicked out of and stopped going to catechism.
Okay.
Because by then, and I discovered this, I was just actually kind of reading all the shit that they were giving me.
Right.
And I would read these books that were in the back, and they were like the Old Testament shit.
Yeah.
In these classrooms. So by the end of it, I actually knew a lot more than not only the kids about the Bible that were going there, but also like most of the teachers because they were volunteers.
Right.
And like looking back, I now feel bad for them because I was like, they're volunteers and they're parents. They're gonna like,
right.
They're just doing this shit because they truly believe it and they're they think they're helping.
Yeah.
And I was such a dick like towards the end. So for your confirmation, you have to take a sort of like verbal test.
Okay.
You answer questions. Which, by the way, do you know what First Communion and
I'm familiar with
Confirmation is?
I'm familiar with First Communion. Confirmation is what is
Okay. So First Communion. For those who don't know, there's steps before you're a full Catholic.
Right.
Believe it or not. First Communion is when you start taking that step into it. I forget the actual reasoning, but it's the first time you ever drink the blood of Christ and eat the flesh of God, which is bread, and house wine. So you drink that, and you eat that. Like, okay, now you're taking the steps. Confirmation is like you're becoming more knowledgeable Catholic, and you do your first confession of your sins. Yeah.
Okay.
And I was like, I don't know what I've fucking done yet. I'm like 12.
Right.
Or 13. I was gonna say, I feel bad I don't go to church enough. They're like, why aren't you going to church enough? I'm like, well, I didn't think we were gonna do it like this, motherfucker. Okay.
I didn't know there was a follow up.
Yeah. I was just making all this shit up. And like saying, our house was which was true. Our house was under construction at the time.
Yeah.
Oh, damn, we're busy. And like, oh, but you should make time for. I'm like, okay, listen. Do I need your piece of? I'm only 12. I'm not saying this shit, but so you have to take a test in order to get to do confirmation. That's when you become Catholic. Capital C Catholic. I like that.
Capital K.
Capital K. He answer like, "What is church?" And you're supposed to say like, "Oh, it's where you go to worship the Lord and show your devotion and all that." Yeah. What is fish? What is the fish or the icto symbol? Representation of Jesus Christ, who, when the Romans had come to exterminate Christians, they would draw these fish and goat blood, which they also did in Exodus, which is where they got it from, to signify that they were a Christian to other followers, so that they would know not to knock on those doors, any Romans that were actually Christian, as well as to warn each other.
Okay.
Or who could be warned. Yeah, and it's also what Jesus used to divide up and feed the hungry and the homeless. So there would be questions like that. So they asked me, what is the Catholic Church? And I go, the most profitable business in the world. And they go, what? Yeah, it's like, you guys don't pay taxes. We give donations all the time. Something has to pay for this. I mean, it's not all going to charity, obviously. So they're like, okay, man. Again, parent volunteer doing this.
Yeah.
What's the fish symbol? Well, it's a creature in the ocean.
Yeah.
It's a fish. That's a fish. You eat it sometimes. It tastes good. It'd be like answers like, those are the two I remember.
Yeah.
Because those were the most that I think irked.
Sure.
Whoever it was. My mom's there, and she loves telling this story because, like, apparently Nick got it all right, what they wanted to hear. And I don't remember this. I had to hear this from her. And she goes, and then Chris over here is being an asshole. And they never brought me back again. Oh, should I leave that in? Oh, I don't know. It's, I mean, I just recorded the intro. It's still pretty late. Maybe I'll keep it in. I don't know. That made me... No, no, fuck it. I'm not... Oh, God. Anyway. So that was that. We're still not done with the religious conversation, as you can tell. There's definitely more to come, but for the sake of time, I had to split it there. And the rest of it will, of course, continue into the next episode. Down in the description, or the... No, it's still description for Libsyn version. I put links to the SCP that we alluded to, the God Deer, or at least that's what I called it. And I even linked a game that I very much enjoy called Soma, that plays a lot on some existential ideas. There was a lot of stuff I could have put in, but Soma was the first thing that came to mind. That's still relatively small, and I probably want more people to look into it. I could have put Nier Automata, but that one's a big game, and while I still will highly recommend it, I feel like everyone kind of knows at this point. This next song it's gonna play right now that we usually do for the end of these shows is gonna steer away from the first two, where I put the first two as a nice relaxation bit, and this one's gonna be a little bit more somber to me, or a little sadder. And the next one for the next episode of this series is definitely gonna be sadder. At least songs that make me tear up. Yeah, that's right. Because I think I mentioned in the first episode, I think we all need a good cry. And I think music's a very good, fast way to get to those emotional peaks. Or maybe you won't cry. Either way, it's a good song. Enjoy.
Touch, something courses through my blood, and I'm born anew. Can you feel this warmth too? I need you so much. I'm addicted to your love. Nothing I can do. I'm so helpless for you. Heavenly, I feel the stars align for eternity, till the end of time. Ecstasy, so burned into my mind. You're a drug for me, pure and crystalline. Far away, I'm absorbed within a haze, so consumed by you. Do you think of me too? Counting down the days, got me sleepless in a craze. I'm a slave to you, so damn helpless for you. Heavenly, I feel the stars align for eternity, till the end of time. Ecstasy, so burned into my mind. You're a drug for me, pure and crystalline. I feel the stars align for eternity, till the end of time. Ecstasy, so burned into my mind. You're a drug for me,